Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. That's a 2017 Honda. It's the Civic. I don't know what engine's in it. It's big, and a bunch of lights on. ABS, brake, VSA, all of the lights relating to the stability system. Apparently he took it to the zone. They did the scan on it and told him that the alternator and battery are A-OK. And that's all we know. All tells hooked up, keys on. It's over here scanning. Let's see what we have for codes. First thing first though, let's hook up a battery maintainer. These Hondas and those little Group 51 batteries do not last very long with the key on. It's got the Earth Dreams, no turbo, I don't know, 1.5 or something, 2.0, 1.4, I don't know, make something up. 2.0, it says, according to the emissions label. 2,000 cc's of Honda Thunder. Let's see, she done scanning a bunch of codes. Left rear wheel speed sensor circuit failure. Left rear wheel speed sensor signal compare failure. Steering angle sensor failure. Detects intermittent internal failure. CAN communication with steering wheel sensor. Left rear brake actuator, parking brake actuator. Doesn't the, well, I was thinking the wheel speed sensor and the parking brake actuator sharing the same harness. VSA system malfunction. Left rear wheel speed sensor malfunction. So I don't know if the codes have been cleared, how many of these are for real, how many of them are not. I think what our best option would be, I'm going to save all these codes, then we're going to clear them, and then we're going to go drive it and see if it has a problem with the steering angle sensor, and then I believe we're probably going to see a problem with that left rear wheel speed sensor circuit or sensor itself. So why don't we do that? Let me save these, clear them, and we'll go for a shake. Okay, ABS, even after doing a clear, has one code in it, so let's just see what that is. Left rear wheel speed sensor circuit failure. So maybe we don't need to go to a test drive. Let me turn the parking brake on and off. We'll get it up in here. We'll just do a visual inspection. We'll spin the wheels and see if we can see it. Started it up, put the parking brake on and off. I can hear the left side parking brake actuator work, and the parking brake seems to work fine. Did a rescan on it. I see we have 3 codes now. And all I did is start it. We didn't even drive it. Okay, so we got those steering angle sensor faults. Okay. All right, fantastic. So it looks like we likely have two separate issues. Kind of curious that the that light supposedly just came on. Seems odd that 2 things would happen at the same time, but let's get it up, do a visual inspection, like I say, on the left rear, see if we see anything weird there, and then we'll have to learn a little something about this steering angle sensor. We came and looked right at the problem. Maybe. So there's something there. That's green and chunky. For some reason I thought the ABS ran through that same harness. And it does. Okay, I thought that was the case. So back in there, right there, where it doesn't focus. So somewhere right in there, you'll see your wheel speed sensor. Pretty terrible videography here. Trust me, there's a wheel speed sensor in there. It comes out and ties into this harness right here and goes right there and turns into a green puffy mess right there. And also there's another spot right there. And that is on the vehicle side. So that is not even a harness that we can purchase, and that sucker is right tight to that connector. So we're not going to touch that because we're going to need to have a donor We're gonna need a donor vehicle. This side looks good. It makes you wonder what the world happened there. That wire up there we could fix, but right next to this connector, no go. Okay, so that's one problem. Visual inspection for the win, huzzah. Need cash? Who doesn't? Let's see if our friends at Wilbert's, you pulled a bath. Let's see if they have any Honda Civics down there. Ours is 17. A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, and then the LMNO. They have an 08 and 07. Oof. 03s, 96s. Not a real popular car in the yard. So 08 still going to be the handy park and brake. Well, we're not going to check. Well, I guess we could check all yards. Newest they have is a 15. That is up in Rochester. Galdang, galdang. That's not going to help us today. What we'll have to do in that case, because you'll never get a salvage yard to go out and just cut you that stub harness. Salvage yards are inherently difficult to deal with, except Wilbert's. They're always a pleasure. And that's the truth. When you call their full service yards, I guess, they pull it yards. You know, they're pretty good about that kind of stuff. Although, you know, they wouldn't go out and cut you off a, you know, stub harness either. And that's simply because it's just not cataloged. You know, the operator that answers, you know, would have no way to handle that, I don't think. I could be wrong. Okay, so that's going to take care of the left rear wheel speed sensor circuit failure, the left rear wheel speed signal compare failure, and the left rear parking brake actuator circuit short to ground. So that's kind of interesting. Now we need to look at the C0051, steering angle sensor failure, detects internal failure. I'm gonna look up in service data to see what's involved with that, see where it lives. I already took it off the lift, so hopefully it's not part of the steering rack. Probably is. And then we'll see what we need to do to check that out. Should have left it on the left. I don't think we're gonna see much. We can. There's our connector right in there. You guys probably can't see. It's that faded thing in the background. Our electric power steering. I'm gonna set you guys down, do a visual inspection. So the electric steering rack here houses the steering angle sensor. I've repaired some of these in the past for rodent damage, and it is on the high-speed network, so it's that red wire and the white wire. Electric steering works, so we don't have to check the big fuse. But let me just we'll probably take this skid plate down here a little bit, or this mud cover, and just have a look to see if there's any corrosion on those can wires. There we go. We're going to use a little AES Wave U scope. I have the key on. We're going to check, first of all, we need a ground. Everything's crusty. Story of my life. Well, we'll just try going on the steering rack here somewhere. Can find a spot. Okay, that feels like a good one. First thing we're going to check is for power. So that's going to be this blue wire down here on this connector. We're going to back probe it very gingerly. And let me see here. Position. Down. We're going to go to the monitors. And then we want volts average so we can see. Oops. Good things changed here. Okay, so we can see, hopefully you guys can see, our average volt's 14.1 volts, and that's with it plugged in. So it loads in place, so we're all good there. So we have power. Now our other two wires are can high and can low. So your conventional, you know, high-speed can, pin 6 and 14 at your DLC. We're going to plug into one of those. That must be can low, and that must be can high. So let me change this so we're just making sure that we have communication down here. We're going to change our volts per division. We'll change it to 1 volt per division. We expect on can high 2.5 to 3.5 volts. I'm just going to move my trigger because it's easier than getting out the cursors. The trigger for the trigger. So yep, so we're 2.5 volts on the bottom of those data packets. And we're about 3.5 volts on the top. And then this, like I say, is just computer talk, ones and zeros. So it appears we have network communication here. That's can high on the white wire. We're going to go to can low. We should see just the opposite, from 2.5 to 1.5 volts. Let's see here. I just move our trigger down. So we're about 2.5 volts there. You can use the cursors on this, but I find just for quick and dirty tests, I just use the trigger down to 1.5 volts. So we have CAN communication down here. So we have power, we have ground, it's grounded to the rack, and then we have our CAN data lines. Now, it gets a little, I want to say a little bit more complicated, kind of. So these CAN data lines, these ones go to, this is a trunk and branch style. These go directly to the VSA module. And that's, you know, in the VSA module, the ABS module is looking for the data being transmitted from this. And then I believe the VSA module transmits that out on a network. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's how it works because the VSA module has 2 networks going to it. So I think we just need to make sure that the CAN communication's making it to the VSA module, which I have to assume that it is. And if that's the case, then we're looking at a bad ESP or EPS motor, electronic power steering motor. I don't know if it's sold separate from the entire steering rack. So over here on the steering rack, you have your torque angle sensor that comes down and, you know, plugs into this. And then, you know, built into this is the steering angle sensor, which kind of sucks. In service data, they show this motor as being separate, taking out the 2 bolts. Now, granted, that's in places like Florida. This thing's pretty crusty, a lot of corrosion here. When you have steel bolts going into the aluminum, it generally doesn't end well. So let's see if our CAN is making it up to the VSA module. I did inspect this harness, where this harness runs up around and plugs into the motor itself, and everything there looks good. Nothing obvious. So let me put some of these plastic, it was all held together with zip screws and stuff. That's why I didn't take the whole thing off. Let me put this back together and we'll go back under the hood. This may be a little more difficult to show. I've unplugged the module. I went back and looked at the computer diagrams for the network, and there's 2 FCAN networks that run to this ABS module down here that you can't see. I don't know which one it talks on for the data link, because we can talk to it, so obviously there's one of the networks that goes to it, and none of the other modules are complaining against it. So I highly doubt that we're missing our signal here. But we're going to do our due diligence and make 100% sure. According to the diagram, it's pin 20 and pin 21. And in good Honda fashion, it's numbered on the back, so I see 1 through 14 across the top, and then we got pin 16, 17, 18, 19, this is pin 20. Got nothing there. That's pin 21, and I also have nothing there. Let me look to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. Might have to take the cover off the back of that. Either that or we do really legit have it open. Anything in the printer there, young lady?
Get some stuff by your eye.
Some schmoo. Oh, hi, kitty. Hi, kitty. And thank you. Whoa, man down.
So
I think perhaps it's not telling us the correct thing here. Let me figure this out. Let's see. They have some indicators on it. It does. This is gonna go like this. Let me figure this out, folks. Okay, the numbers, oddly enough, the numbers on the connector are not correct. At least the ones that are stamped on. This is the direction that it goes, like this. Okay, so let's see. Number 20 and number 21. And then you got 20. All right, there are pins there, 22 and 23, there's no pins. Oh, okay, and that's why, because those are for the clutch. Clutch pedal stroke sensor, clutch pedal stroke sensor ground, okay. 24 and 25 are the other CAN wires, which are not there, but they have an asterisk by them, so perhaps this doesn't use the second data network. Oh, okay, yep, so it would if it had ACC, which is adaptive cruise control. Therefore, we're completely wasting our time here, because these CAN wires must be here, and they must be good. And they are. So here we have CAN high. Oops. Oops. This guy's picking the, pushing the wrong buttons here. All right, so we have our CAN high signal, and then our other one would be CAN low. That's CAN high as well. That one's CAN low. So that's it. Yeah, I mean, I guess if I knew it didn't have a second data network, we wouldn't have wasted our time. Yeah, here we are. I'm just trying to do our due diligence, I guess. So it appears that our steering angle sensor has everything necessary to make it function. It has power and ground, and it has CAN communication, and it talks to this ABS module, and then the ABS module, or I guess in this case it talks to everything on the network, because it's just simply tied into the FCAN, or the high-speed data network. That's all those wires were down there we checked. There's just power and ground, and then, you know, data communication. There's all kinds of, you know, beep boop beep boop boop inside the steering angle sensor that transmits its data and ones and zeros, and any other module that's on this high-speed network that needs that information, it's there for the taking, I guess, or transmits out, you know, continually at however many bits per second. It transmits and tells everybody on the network what we're doing on the steering wheel. So that's weird. That's a little bizarre. This is one of those cases where you don't know what you don't know, as Mr. Perkins at the L1 Auto Diagnostics likes to say. You don't know what you don't know. If it were me, and this were my vehicle, I would fix that mess back there first with the wheel speed sensor and then that parking brake. I would get that section of harness and I would fix that first. Then I would clear the code and see if the steering angle sensor code comes back. And if it does, in that case, then we know for a fact that we need to get that new motor assembly. I've seen some weird stuff, some unexplainable stuff. And the reason that I mention this is because I have that gut feeling like it's kind of odd if the customer's not BSing you, that the light just came on and we actually have two problems. You know, the steering angle sensor quit, you know, transmitting data, and that crap back there all happened at the same time. Okay. Not really likely. Can it happen? Absolutely. Anything can happen, kid. But I did a little poking on the Google machine over here on the Identifix, which tells you which parts to change based off codes, and then you get out the part 2Z and let it rip. There are a couple cases where people had this code, that C0051, not with the identifier of 96, which we had, which indicates internal failure. They had a C0051 with an identifier of like 54 or something, after unplugging a rear parking brake and then turning the key on with the parking brake unplugged. They all of a sudden set this code for the steering angle sensor and they had to reinitialize it, which I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. There was like 5 or 6 cases on there. So that makes me a little apprehensive to go right after this, knowing that, you know, we have some corrosion. Somehow, you know, other people are having that affect the steering angle sensor. Doesn't really make sense. It's completely separate, other than the fact it does talk to the ABS module. So I guess that's what I would tell my customer. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. I'm going to quote it on the motor assembly, which houses the steering angle sensor, and then that back there, that's tough. We need a used harness, or we need to find to see if Honda makes the pins and jumper leads and stuff, which is what I'm going to check into. Fixing the wires back in the harness isn't a big deal. Where they're right at the connector, you know, we're kind of backed up against the wall, if you will, in that regard. So I'm gonna check into it. I don't know if we're gonna get the job. I just wanted to bring you guys along on the diag and let you know my thoughts, my feelings on it, and what I'm gonna explain to my customer, and then we're gonna kind of go from there. So if I get the job, I'll record it. I got a feeling we probably won't. Insta, Facebook, you know where we're at. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching. Bonus footage, curiosity has gotten the best of me. Let's set this down here, stand by. I opened up that harness because I wanted to see if we can just get the pins for it here. And what I wanted to know mostly is, can this code for the left rear wheel generate that fault for the steering angle sensor? So I hooked the wires together temporarily. Give her a little spinny. And we can see that sensor works, okay? Albeit temporary. Let's spin that again. Okay, so we have the left rear wheel working. We show steering angle now. Before it was stuck at -2, it wouldn't move at all. Let's see, just for grins and giggles, if that works. Of course, it's going to need to be recalibrated because it's incorrect. I'll be a son of a hoo-ha. Jeez, ball drive's pretty creaky. Just reaching through, turning back to the left. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Let's see, we get our wheel straightened back up. And essentially we can recalibrate it so it goes back to 0. Should be a 0-point calibration on it, but I'll be darned. I did not show you guys previously, but it was stuck at -2. I hopped into data there, and no matter, you know, how you turn the steering wheel, you know, nothing was happening like it's happening now. And then we go back into codes. Of course, the code would set immediately. Read codes, bada bing, bada boom. Just like that. Wow, well, at least you know now. We can fix the wires in the back. We can do a calibration on the steering angle sensor. And for whatever reason, that left rear wheel speed signal being what it is, all corroded, was goofing up the VSA and the steering angle sensor. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you other than cars are stupid. Open that harness back up, yeah. And the wires here were just for the parking brake, so I was starting to get nervous. I was like, oh boy. It doesn't have anything to do with but then I opened it up here, and yeah, all the green that was in this section was the wheel speed signal, wheel speed sensor. No sense in doing anything with it. It's big old mess. All right, now that's back open. I'm curious if our steering angle sensor code came back. And just like that, steering angle internal failure, C0051-96. Son of a gun. It almost got us. We almost got slid.
You never get
No, we almost got that close to telling the customer you need to spend thousands.
Oh.
And really, we could have fixed the wire.
Found the wire?
Well, yeah, we found the wires right off, but there's a problem with the left speed sensor, but it throws codes for this steering angle sensor.
Is it one wire or
Yeah, no, it's just a problem with the speed sensor. If we fix that, it fixes
the rest of it?
steering angle sensor, and I'll just show you guys because I know you don't believe me. See, it's at -85, and if we go turn it now, even though there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, so I'm turning the steering wheel, and nothing's happening there on scan data. So just so you know. Okay, this is the long bonus footage. You guys have a good day.